Hello, YouTube. Ryazan Oblast is a federal subject of Russia. Oblast is a type of administrative division, often translated as a region or province, historically used in the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union, and now countries like Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. The one described in today's video. Its administrative center is in the city of Ryazan, which is also the oblast's largest city. In terms of physical geography, the Ryazan Oblast lies in the central part of the Russian plain, between the central Russian and Volga uplands. Ryazan is a city with ancient and rich history. The city is sophisticated with its own unique identity and cultural charm. Today, I will tell you about interesting and unusual facts from Ryazan and the Oblast. There are many historical sites worthy of attention in the Ryazan Oblast. Some will be covered in this video. For example, those who want to fulfill their dreams are expected to come to the Spas-Klepiki district. There is an old oak tree there, standing alone in an open field. Once upon a time, such trees were used as watchtowers. Warriors looked down from the height to see if the enemy was approaching. Now it is considered that if you make a wish and leave a ribbon at the oak tree, it will certainly come true. However, environmentalists warn that it is better not to tie anything to the branches, it can harm the tree. If you walk from the oak tree a little further from the road, you can go down into the ravine to the spring where the hermit honored, respected in the surrounding area where he once lived. Mysterious forests, anomalous zones, and all sorts of exciting paranormal phenomena attract people with great force. One of these incomprehensible and therefore doubly interesting places is located in the Ryazan open spaces between the villages of Dubrovka and Tarnovo in the Shilovsky district. The locals gave it an apt and vivid name, Drunken Forest, but some people refer to it as Dancing Forest. Although this place is a tourist attraction, the local villagers do not particularly like to go there, but they do talk about it. They say that your head immediately starts to hurt or feel dizzy. If someone even sees this mirage. The dancing forest in the Shilovsky district, it's basically a real mystery. The tree trunks here are bizarrely curved. Why this happened is anybody's guess. Many people believe in a mystical reason for such an unusual phenomenon. Lots of people come here to this strange, mysterious forest, which is unlike anything else. Just curious tourists, thrill seekers, and hunters of paranormal phenomena. Locals are eager to tell adventurous travelers fascinating stories, horror stories, and legends. After listening to some particularly exciting tales, someone may really want to go to the enchanted place, and someone else wants to get away from it. The Drunken Forest is particularly popular with seekers of temporal curvature and refraction of spaces, who claim that trees bend under the influence of energy, flows of enormous force, which allegedly seeps through faults from outer space and other worlds. Okay? You drive on through the oblast and then stop in an amazement when you suddenly see the colossus of Notre Dame among the Russian forests, villages, and huts. It's the Russian variety. Mysterious places keep the secrets of Kasimov's Dracula in the village of Goose Железный, iron goose in English, in the Kasimov district of the Ryazan region. There is the Church of the Holy Trinity that people mistake for Notre Dame, and it was built by the descendants of the local Dracula. One can see that local attraction. He is engraved with his hands on his hips and in a frock coat on a grave-like monument made of black marble, located between the local store and the church. Batashev Andrei Rodionovich, the sole proprietor of the ironworks and the village on the Guсь River, the respectful inscription reads. Guсь Железный was founded in the middle of the 18th century by the villain and sorcerer, as he was referred to, Andrei Batashev. I told my audience more than once about the 18th century's weirdness and supernatural phenomena in the Russian Empire and nearby countries. This one today is yet one more. Despite the fact that the sorcerers died back in 1799, they're still afraid of him and say that he was Dracula, scarier than the other Vlad the Impaler. Stoves are still found in the local forests, in which, as tourists are assured, not only bricks were fired, but also guilty citizens were roasted. Folk legends also say that Batashev was very fond of various instruments for brutal executions, so he set up something like an open-air museum in his estate. Gallows, racks, scaffolds with chopping blocks, and wheels were everywhere and worked tirelessly. The tower with a dungeon was considered particularly noteworthy, where various governmental commissions were sent, and it wasn't easy to investigate Batashev's crimes. Well, the owner of the estate pressed the secret pedal, and the commission amicably went underground and stayed there. Russian people also say that the owner was a Freemason, a member of the sect of Zlidota, minted silver money, kept a menagerie that were fed human flesh, and finally was able to appear from under the ground once in a while. But at the same time, he enjoyed unlimited privileges since he was considered Prince Potemkin's best friend and sent him fruits and vegetables from his wonderful greenhouse. Look, the prince was a decent Russian statesman and one of the lovers of the Empress Ekaterina II, whose imperialist ambitions conquered territories where my ancestors lived and incorporated them into the empire. Well, that Russian Dracula, he didn't plan to build any such structure, meaning the church, because he was not very pious. The gigantic project was started by his son, also Andrei, who was fortunate, lucky. The fact is that when Dracula was dying, when asked who would get the capital, meaning family's fortunes, he answered mysteriously, "To the one who will overcome." Well, fortunately for Andrei, a fire broke out, the archives burned down, and his son was recognized as the heir. And the son ordered to thank the Lord in proportion to his good fortune. Who was the architect? Why is the church cathedral looks Gothic? Why would such a giant be built in a small village? Science does not know. There are no answers. But it is absolutely certain that even the rich Batashevs could not afford the construction. The colossus had been under construction for almost 70 years. Now you tell me, where's Hollywood with its bleak fantasies? And why such a story is being neglected? They're just ignorant in Hollywood. They don't know history. Look at their productions. Anyway, no one checked, but legend had it that Guсь Железный was riddled with underground passages, some of which lead all the way to the town of Kasimov. You can understand the Russian Dracula. It's probably better to go underground than shake on the surface, riding on the baneful local roads. Kasimov's soil turned out to be riddled with craters like the lunar surface. The drivers have to dodge the pits and those who are driving around the pits. But eventually you do arrive in Kasimov. See, this is this mystical place, this mysterious Kremlin in Kasimov. It would seem to be an ordinary fortification, but in reality, the Kremlin in Kasimov hides a lot of mysteries and secrets. You see, during the Middle Ages, the Kremlin served as an important defensive point and the center of the city. It is riddled with history and legends that attract many people from different parts of the Ryazan Oblast. Inside the walls of the Kremlin, there is an energy-rich zone. If you want to feel the flow of energy and plunge into the mystery of that Kremlin, it is recommended to visit this amazing place somewhere at the end of the evening, when the streets are quiet. Let's move on. The Shatsk quarry field is located in the Ryazan Oblast near the village of Shatsk. The Shatsk quarry field is an unusual place. It is so huge that it feels like you are in the middle of a desert. Everything is covered with endless earthen stones of various sizes and shapes. Locals believe that each of these stones has its own magical properties and is able to fulfill a wish if you ask it with faith and put it in a certain place on the field. Until the mid-2000s, the quarry was operational. Limestone was taken for crushed stone and then placed on the Kaluga-Medvin highway. But the development was stopped. Limestones of the Vyzian probably stage in the upper part, possibly Serpukhov. The quarry itself also consists of 3 tiers in the technical sense. Currently intensely overgrown with sea buckthorn. Motocross is also a popular place for bikers there. Fossil collectors regularly visit here, even from Moscow, leaving behind piles of broken stone and torn gloves. The stones of the Shatsk quarry have different shapes. Some of them look like giant eggs, while others have strange swollen or elongated shapes. The colors of the stones also vary from earthy brown to gray-blue shades. Legend has it that each color corresponds to a certain magical energy and is able to affect different areas of life. Let's move on. In the 1990s, the Sasovsky district became a place of real pilgrimage for ufologists. And I covered this in detail in my books. So here I will just tell you the general information. You see, there were several explosions here which could not be logically explained. In Sasovo, the windows in the houses flew out, the lights went out. Some claim to have seen bright flashes and fireballs. Then they found strange funnels near the city. Traces of them have been preserved. UFO enthusiasts still come here hoping to meet with the extraterrestrials. So in April of 1991, an unusual phenomenon occurred in the town of Sasovo, located in the Ryazan Oblast. At night, residents of the town were awakened by loud noise and vibration that was felt in their homes. Windows were broken in some apartments, and some eyewitnesses noticed a strange glow and flying, glowing objects. In the morning, a large crater with a diameter of almost 30 meters was discovered in a field outside the city. Soviet scientists tried to explain this phenomenon by putting forward various hypotheses. There was even a hypothesis put forth by foreign espionage agencies that suggested it was due to the intervention of alien forces. One of the hypotheses was that the UFO was conducting an experiment to take samples of the Earth's soil. The noise, vibration, and other phenomena observed that night were side effects from the use of alien technology that had stolen Ryazan's soil. That is what they do, those ETs, abscond with terrestrial soil. But this is another topic, and we will not delve into it today. Now, the capital of the Oblast. Let's start with the reconstruction of the old Ryazan. You see, in December of 1237, after a 5-day siege, Ryazan was completely destroyed by Batu troops, the Mongol warlord. After the invasion, the city was rebuilt, but it could no longer achieve its former greatness. The constant threat of attack forced the princes to move the capital to a more peaceful place, Pereyaslav-Ryazan, the modern Ryazan. However, back in the 16th century, Old Ryazan is mentioned in written sources as a city. In documents dating back to 1676, the village of Ryazan is already listed, which still exists today under the name of Old Ryazan. For the last 200 years or so, archaeologists have been actively and fruitfully studying Old Ryazan. Today, the settlement is a monument of history and culture of federal significance in Russia, which has been a part of the Ryazan Historical and Architectural Museum Reserve since 1968. Of course, in addition to professional researchers, Old Ryazan has always attracted both lovers of antiquity and grave robbers, those outlaw diggers, and you can find videos about this human element in my channel. The ghost town keeps its secrets and is overgrown with myths and legends. The treasures, the famous Staro-Ryazansky hoards, hidden by residents on the eve of Batu's storming of Ryazan, excited the minds of local residents long before the discovery of the first treasure in 1822. For example, there were rumors among the people about a luxurious princely crown found almost in a peasant's garden. Modernity makes its own adjustments to the stories of lovers, of mysteries of the universe. At the foot of the defensive rampart in the eastern part of the settlement, there is a neat oval-shaped depression. Well, it was rumored to be a UFO landing site. It turns out that this is just a place where moisture accumulates after rains and snow melts. They are popularly called steppe saucers or cucumbers. But the main place of power on the hill fort in recent years is the Staro-Ryazansky Alatir, a giant granite boulder to which the national trail, so to say, does not overgrow. People keep coming. The stone lies at the bottom of a ravine near one of the ramparts. The surface of the stone is dotted with a layer of coins, and all the branches of the neighboring bushes are tied with colored ribbons. Where did the name for the magic stone come from? Well, according to legends, the Alatir stone existed before the beginning of the world. It fell from the sky to the island of Buyan in the middle of the Sea Okeana, and on it were inscribed writings with the laws of the Slavic god Svarog. Perhaps in the Middle Ages, the modern island of Rügen in the Baltic, Alatir Sea, was called Buyan Island, according to some ubiquitous scientists and their claims. But let's get back to the legends. The red maiden Zarya sits on the magic stone of Alatir before spreading her pink veil across the sky and waking the whole world from the night's sleep. There was also a world tree with birds of paradise. From under the white Alatir stone flows a wonderful spring that gives the whole world sustenance and healing. Alatir is guarded by the wise snake Garafena and the bird Gagana with an iron beak and copper claws. Later, in Christian times, the popular imagination settled on the same island Virgin Mary, along with Elijah the prophet, Gregory the Brave, and a host of saints, as well as Jesus Christ himself. The tale of the Ryazan Alatir is a separate story. According to legend, It was brought to the foot of the ancient fortress at the foundation of the city specifically to give Ryazan and its inhabitants protection and vitality. People went to the stone for help, leaving offerings. Why the protective magic of Alat did not work in the winter of 1237 when Ryazan was burned to the ground by Batu's troops, that's a separate question. Nevertheless, today, Stary Ryazansky Alat is a place of pilgrimage for both tourists and locals. Well, scientists, they have another explanation. The stone, named Alat by the locals, appeared at the bottom of the ravine in 2005. Before that, brought by a glacier from distant Karelia, the boulder had lain in the depths of old Ryazan for 200,000 years. The boulder is a living evidence of ancient glaciation. A huge glacier, a kilometer thick, was slowly spreading out from the north under the influence of gravity, capturing sand and clay, tearing out the stones of the Karelian rocks. As the climate warmed, it melted, leaving behind a thick layer of sediments in the form of mixture of clay, sand, and rounded stones, pebbles, and boulders. Glacial deposits began to be called morena after the Slavic deity of death. The Stary Ryazansky boulder, also known as the Alat, is the largest known in that region. And the reason for its appearance was a growing ravine, which exposed the stone. And finally, in Ryazan, mushrooms with eyes. That's the saying. Every city has its own saying, and Ryazan is no exception. There is a saying that in Ryazan, there are mushrooms with eyes. What kind of mushrooms are we talking about, and why are they with eyes? One of the legends say that in ancient Russia, the Tatar Mongols, who raided in the 14th century, were hunted down by mushrooms. There were always plenty of mushrooms on the Ryazan land, and people were forbidden to pick them in the border areas. This is how the Russians calculated the places where the Mongol Tatar army passed, by cutting off and knocking down mushroom tops, or as we say, hats. I will tell you more about the mystical Belarus, Russian, Ukrainian, and other nearby lands. They are supernatural and paranormal phenomena. If you like my research, please kindly support me through the links you'll find in the description to this video. Please tell others about my work, and thank you for your attention.